I am. We are going live. Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome. Welcome to Christy Wuchukwu's Brilliance TV show. This is the show that we do every Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. At Christy Wuchukwu's Brilliance TV show, we bring to you experts from different industries to talk about their defining moments and accomplishments. And this is where you come in, because this show cannot exist without you. It's all about you and how you can get to impact the world with what you have been through. So today I am super excited for my guest. But before I share about my guest, I want to remind you of my conference that is coming on here in Sacramento, California, October 20th. That's right, October 20th here in Sacramento, California. I have 3 amazing speakers that are going to be joining us. I have Tanya Hoffman, the Public Speaker Association founder, and she's going to be coming and joining us as one of my speakers. And if you have gotten to hear her before or been to any of her conference, you know that you are in for a treat. And then I have Dr. Mariana, who are coming to us all the way from Arizona. And again, she's a powerhouse on her own as well. So please join me. I have also my girl, my hometown girl, Jennifer Dunham. She's also going to be joining us that day as one of the speakers, spreading her movement on profitable lifestyle. So please be joined to join us here, Sacramento, California, on October 20th. And it is an opportunity for you to come and network and collaborate and get to meet new people. And today, earlier on, I talked about the power of connection. What a better way to really connect with other people that you probably would not have connected with if you're not on this conference. Listen, it's only $25 event have gone on. But listen, if you are joining us today, I am also extending that special to you for $25. The regular price is $37. And lunch is included. Where else can you get such a deal? So please take advantage of this special offer tonight for joining at our TV show for $25. The regular price is $37. I'm also going to send the link for you to also register. Please be able to join us on that day. But I want to dive into our conversation tonight. I have a special guest joining us, Doctor. Yes, the doctor is in the house. And Redelfs is going to be talking to us about the brilliance of our mature humanity. That's right, the brilliance of our mature humanity. Among everything else she's known for, she's known as gardener of the human heart. Let's see here what I say. So please help me welcome our guest, Dr. Ann Redelfs. Ann, are you there?
I am here.
Awesome.
Thank you, Christy.
Awesome. So you and I met at Las Vegas back in July at Tanya Hoffman's conference. Yeah, I was speaking at the conference, and it was really nice to get to know you and connect with you. And so because of that connection, here we are today. I talked about the power of connection. You never know who you will meet and how you're going to collaborate in the future. And this is one of those occasions. So, and for those of us that don't know who you are, our audience that don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about who you are.
I am Ann Redelfs from Texarkana, Texas, and I trained as a medical doctor at Tulane University. I did 2 years of residency in pediatrics and then 3 years in psychiatry. And then I went on to private practice in psychiatry. But I ended up getting ill as time passed, and I realized the medical model wasn't working for me. So I took a sabbatical and I sought another way of healing. Before I knew it, Hurricane Katrina had come upon my city. I evacuated, and before long, I was writing a book for the first time in my life that turned into The Awakening Storm, which is the story of my evacuation from my home in New Orleans to escape Hurricane Katrina. But it's also the story of how we all evacuate from aspects of our humanity to avoid trauma when we're young. Before long, I'm writing another book called Illness Can Be the Cure, where I talk about my new method of healing based on listening to the soul in every symptom and disease process. And then my third book I've written is called With Every Addiction, Infants Are Trying to Meet Their Needs. And it's a developmental approach to addiction.
Awesome.
I'm also a public speaker, as you know. And I love to talk about growth, human growth, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually.
So, I've always talked about the fact that oftentimes we see people where they are at present, but we don't often know how it all started. We often see people when they've already gone through their experiences and now they're at a better place. We just always don't know what it was for them before they got here. And I say that it's in those times that people get to learn one of the greatest lessons. So how did you get to be here, Anne?
Here as in on the show, here as who I am today. Who I am today?
Yes, who are you? How did you get to what you do now?
Well, I think a big step for me was my experience in pediatrics, because we assessed every child based on development. Every child was measured to see if he was growing properly, weighed, putting on weight, and also developmental milestones were assessed. For example, is a 1-year-old speaking in one-word sentences? Is a 1.5-year-old walking smoothly? And I realized over time that we're assessing physical steps, but we're not really getting to emotional maturation, mental maturation, which together comprise our psychology, our heart and mind. And so I began to realize that we learn to talk psychologically just like we learn to talk physically. And by this I mean we learn to express our genuine thoughts and feelings just as they are toward our genuine life experience. Not the stories we make up to make ourselves feel better and get our needs met, but what actually happened. That's so important. And we also learn to walk psychologically, meaning we can carry ourselves, our emotions and our thoughts just as they are, to go someplace new. We're not stuck in those emotions and feelings, those thoughts. We can allow them to take us somewhere new. That's walking psychologically. And to give you a story, I'm thinking about a friend of mine. She was middle-aged and having difficulties with her husband. And I listened to her complaints and assessed where he was developmentally. I went home and I looked in my developmental book and I tore out a page about the 2-year-old, what to expect from your 2-year-old. I erased the things or used a pen to blot out the things that mentioned a 2-year-old and just gave her the information. And she read it over and she was, oh, this is unbelievable. How can they know so much about my husband? This is my husband. How can they know? And then I showed her the book, What to Expect from Your 2-year-old. And it was such a powerful moment for her to realize that's where her husband was stuck developmentally, psychologically. So many people are stuck at young ages, but we're calling it something else. We're calling it either a physical illness or a mental illness, or maybe they have an eccentric personality. Maybe they're a normal man or woman, when in reality, they're actually stuck at a very, very young age.
So let's go back and talk to us about, you talked about being in psychiatry and all, no, actually pediatrics, from pediatrics to psychiatric. So how did you go from that journey, and what made you go from one extreme to one end to one the other?
Well, what happened one particular day, I had a lot of children who had been traumatized. That was pretty routine working in a public hospital in downtown New Orleans. So one particular day, I went home and watched a movie to unwind. And it was about a girl who had been incested by her father. And I cried and cried watching this movie. I felt so bad for her. And I went home, or I was at home, but that night I went to sleep. And I couldn't sleep. I just had nightmares. And I had the word incest stuck in my throat, and I woke up crying hysterically. And I just happened to have arranged to see a therapist that day. And she said to me in the very first meeting, well, it sounds like you were incested by your father. And that opened up this huge chest of painful memories that I had tucked away in my unconscious mind, had no memory of any of that before that first dream, that first nightmare. That's what opened up the chest. So that's what I realized, that's what I was in pediatrics for, to uncover my own memories and also to learn about human development. That stuck in my head. So when my therapist at the time suggested, you might be happier in psychiatry, because I was always analyzing people's inner landscape, always wanting to know what's going on in the family. And my colleagues used to tease me. They'd say, for an ear infection, Anne, do you really need to go know what's going on in the family? And I did. That's what I was interested in. So I moved to psychiatry, and no one was surprised. Everyone said, we knew it all along. So I had that background of human development with me going into psychiatry. And much to my surprise, the same population of people, rather than looking at development, which is what we were doing in pediatrics, they weren't looking at development at all. They were looking at diagnoses and how to treat these diagnoses. And I still had development on the mind. So I was seeing where these adults with mental illness diagnoses, where they weren't stuck in their development. And I was used to assessing child abuse. And I was hearing child abuse in the stories they were telling. Like, for example, one man, he had horrible scars down his back, just terrible. And I said, what happened here? And he said, well, that's where daddy beat me when I was bad. That's what happened. And his delusion was that a giant teddy bear was trying to kill him. And his dad's name was Theodore. And I realized that this isn't a delusion. I mean, on one level it is, but it's his memories coming back. As a child, he was terrified. He thought he was going to be killed by his raging father. So that's where my training kind of went in a different direction than most of my colleagues. And I was able to hear that soul level of what the soul was trying to communicate through these psychiatric symptoms.
Wow, you give us a whole lot of really golden nuggets to really chew on. And one of the things that you talked about, Dr. Ann, is the fact that as we grow up, as we mature, to a certain extent, we carry along the things that happen, the trauma that really happens to us while we were children. And oftentimes, it doesn't get diagnosed because we tuck the memory away. And that continues to follow us until it gets resolved, if it gets resolved at all. And I can't think of, I can't imagine what it would be like for someone like you to have been through what you've been through. Share with us, if you can, to the extent that you can, the patients that you saw when you went to psychiatric hospital, and their life, if you go back, how the early childhood experience has really impacted their adult life.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, it has impacted it so much, meaning that most people were stuck at a young psychological age, like I mentioned. And to give you a quick test to notice where people are stuck in their development, for example, you look at an infant, a baby that isn't walking yet, and you set the baby somewhere and the baby stays there. You know the baby's not going to move, can't walk yet, right? Psychologically, we're the same way when we're stuck in infancy. We are stuck wherever we've been placed. So if we've had a lot of trauma, so much so that it stuck us in infancy, we will stay there. And wherever that trauma took us, we will still be there. And there will be some part, because infants act out their trauma, there will be some part that acts it out. And infants imitate, right? They all do. It's biologically built in. So there'll be some part of us that will be recreating our trauma if we're stuck in infancy. And when we get a little bit older, we start saying no, right? No, no, no. Going to grandma's, no. Going to the doctor's, no. Well, if we have a part that's stuck in that way inside ourselves at that age, we'll be saying no to our trauma. No, 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 no. And these are the two basic categories, symptoms of post-traumatic stress. We recreate our trauma, that's the infant inside us, or we say no, we avoid it. That's the toddler inside us, or the 2-year-old. When we, as mature human beings, can decide prayerfully, yes, this is something I need to investigate. Yes, this is something I need to do, or no, it isn't. But it's not an automatic recreation or an automatic no. We have choice. There's flexibility.
Wow.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, yes. And I'm going to follow up on that question because, you know, we live in a society now, we all over the world, not just in, we live now where technology is taking over the human connection, the human heart-to-heart connection that is really the essence of our being as human beings. That's why it's called being. Talk to us or share with us your experience about connection and how that impacts what we're talking about.
Well, human connection is what we are biologically built to need. I mean, an infant bonds with mom and then dad. It's absolutely built in. And this is what happens in addiction, for example, where a baby needs that close human connection, someone that's totally wrapped up in that little baby. And let's say mom's an alcoholic. Well, mom's not available. She's bonding with her wine bottle. And so the baby doesn't have a mom connecting. So the baby bonds with what is constant, the alcohol. And that's how addiction can get started. So connection is so important. And that is what has us progress in our development. When we don't have it, that's why we stay stuck. Meaning that we have a trauma. There's no one saying, oh, that happened to you. Oh my goodness, tell me about it. Oh my goodness, we have to do something. We have to stand up to this perpetrator. We have to get you some professional help. Hears and responds appropriately. So many people have someone that, I'm busy, look, another time, that didn't happen to you. A priest would never do that. You know, all this stuff rather than being heard and appropriately responded to. So that human connection is vital every single step of our development. Someone who engages us where we are in our development, sees what we are in our development, gives us what we need for our development, and gives us what we need to progress through abuse and neglect, which is part of our world.
You know, as you are talking, I'm thinking about, you know, especially this year that I paid so much attention to what's going on in terms of mental illness. Depression and suicide happens to be huge.
Yes.
And a lot of it, I'm wondering if a lot of it has to do with what we went through when we were young and it never got diagnosed. Can you share with us on that?
Well, I have personal experience with depression in the sense that until I worked through my trauma, I had severe depression. I was on antidepressants at times, and it made me happier, but it was artificial. And the one particular friend, for example, when I was out of the country, committed suicide, and I didn't feel anything. I didn't cry. I didn't mourn, and I thought this is not right. It took me from my genuine feelings, and so much of mental health now, in my opinion, is stabilizing people's emotions. And there's a time and place for it, no doubt about it. Especially when people are self-destructive, you want them to feel better, even if it numbs out their emotions so they don't hurt themselves. But ultimately, as we develop, we need to face what really happened, what's causing the depression. And because so many people like me put it away in the unconscious mind, don't even remember what happened. So it takes a professional to help them slowly strengthen and get the courage and spiritual connection. To me, we always have to connect with the divine to give us the strength to face what happened to us.
This is interesting we're having this conversation, because as you are talking about your journey and your experiences as a child, I'm wondering, did you ever, before you got into this depression mood, did you ever think about that situation, or once you locked it away, did it ever affect how you manage your adult life at all?
No, it really didn't. And looking back on it, I can see that I could never be still. It was kind of like attention deficit hyperactivity disorder in the way I was always doing something academic, always studying, always producing. I could never just sit there restfully because it felt uncomfortable. So in retrospect, I think my feelings and my true life experience might have come forward if I would just sit for a moment, but I never did. I was always moving. So I think so many of our diagnoses, like attention deficit disorder, are just a cover story on people that have some things that they need to work through. And when they're ready, when they're stable enough, when they're mature enough, when they have a strong enough connection with God, they'll work it. They'll be willing to face it and work it through.
So what can you tell us will be the signs for people who don't know? What will be the signs that someone may have been suffering from something from the past that is affecting their adult life?
There are so many signs. For example, I might bring up a topic and I watch how the person is suddenly not able to pay attention. Like if I talk about incest and they're just zoning out on me, okay, there's something there. I pay attention to body language. I pay attention to, like, for example, I once had a friend who every time I was with her, she brought up incest. Every time. And so after a few months, I said, are you aware every time we get together, you bring up incest? And she said, no, I'm not. And I said, well, would you like to talk about it? Is there something personal? Oh, no, nothing personal. No, I don't have any. Nope. Okay. And it kept happening. So I saw it as her soul trying to bring it to her attention, and me being a therapist wanting my help. So I was trying to do that. And at one point I brought it up again, that she once again brought up the subject, and she said, look, I don't want to talk about incest. And the next time I bring it up, you tell me that I don't want to talk about it. And I thought, whoa, okay. And I think the last time I brought it up to her, she said, look, I wasn't incested by my brother. I was not incested by my uncle. And I was not incested by my father. And I realized she was. And that was her way of talking to me. I call that antagonal communication. where you insist on the opposite. You're antagonistic to the truth, so you speak the opposite. But it was very moving on a soul level to hear her soul trying so hard to get her to look at it, and it was just too painful. She wouldn't go there.
You're now called the gardener of the human soul. Gardener of the human soul. But I want to ask you if you can take us back and share with us, what was that struggle for you before you got to really release yourself? What was that struggle for you?
Well, it took years to work through my unconscious process, because I would deal with one level of abuse memories and think, feeling good, let's go on with life. And then the next thing you know, another one would be bubbling up, and another one. And I think this is true of most of us. We have layers. I liken it to an iceberg, and I know Sigmund Freud did as well. This is not an original analogy, but that 10% of our lives are on the surface, what we remember, and the 90% is in our unconscious mind, what we don't remember. And there can be some just horrible things that we tuck away. And so it took me many, many years to work at it. And I still get memories from time to time. They're not devastating. They don't ruin my day, but it's a lot, growing up with someone who, my dad was like a psychopath. He was very, very violent. So people like that, we see them in the movies as a lone adolescent who's doing bizarre things, when these lone adolescent boys grow up into men who get married and have children and can get to everyone in the neighborhood, everyone at church. They seek out prey and can damage a lot of people. And that's what I see when I look around and I see how young people are in their development, meaning not a lot of people are moving in various serious areas in our country where we're having major problems. Very few people are taking steps to do something about it, which is, again, showing me that toddlerhood is taking steps. When we're stuck and not doing anything, that part of us is in infancy. So it takes tremendous trauma to stick someone in infancy, tremendous abuse and neglect. What happened? So once you know where someone is in their development, and if they're stuck at a young age, you have to ask that question. And that's when you start looking in the unconscious mind, because if people don't know consciously, the soul knows.
Absolutely. Do you find that, adults, oftentimes some of them may be depressed, they may have post-traumatic stress or other mental or psychological issues, and they're acting out? Do you think that can be tied to the problem they themselves have that was unresolved? And now they're adults, they're married with children, but they're acting out in a way that is not supposed to. Do you think that they're tied together, the previous and the now attitude?
Yes, I think so often, because that infant in us that's stuck in trauma is recreating the trauma, we either do it ourselves or we marry someone who does the same thing like my dad did to me, that kind of thing. And so the trauma's still there. It's not just in the past, it's in the present, because we've married someone like our abuser. We have a boss like our abuser, or someone in the neighborhoods are like the abuser. And so it just permeates our life until we're willing to look at it and make the necessary changes inside and outside.
And I can't imagine so many people that suffer from mental illness that
Yes.
it's not really just mental illness. It can be as a result of what they went through throughout their life that may cause a breakdown. It may cause depression, like I said. What can you talk about in terms of why do you think the society, why we don't want to talk so much about the word mental illness?
Well, I think that's part of our post-traumatic stress, meaning we're recreating our trauma or we're avoiding it, right? That's a way of avoiding things that are uncomfortable to us. I think we all have bad experiences with people who are mentally ill. Just everybody I know has had some bad experiences. And I'm not talking about just those that are diagnosed, but there are plenty of mentally ill people in businesses and hospitals, in schools that are hurting people. And it's connected with that 90% iceberg under the surface, our unconscious mind. And so it's threatening. It's threatening on a very personal level. And we also, most people have some parts to themselves that are mentally ill in some ways.
Yeah, I think that some of the, my own opinion, I think it's almost like it's a taboo when you say somebody has mental illness. And as a result, people don't want to acknowledge and they don't want to be associated with anything with mental illness. And I think that as a society, if we look at it as somebody needing the help, just like an alcoholic who is addicted, right? We look at it that way and not have it as being a taboo that somebody has a mental illness. People will be more eager to talk about it or to go to the hospital, because some people suffer in pain and not being able to tell anyone at all because of what the society will say about someone with a mental illness.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd like to remove that taboo and look at mental illness developmentally, meaning that whatever symptoms people may have, they're still going to be stuck at some developmental age that needs our compassion, meaning they had trauma that stuck them there, and our help to work it through.
Yeah. So it really is very unfortunate that we live life. We're supposed to live life happily, but living life happily sometimes is not what we get. But because, like I said, because of what somebody else will say, if we go seek out treatment and we die just in pain, in silence. But I'm so glad that after so many suicide this year, that people are really talking about it, that it's okay to reach out for help. It's okay to tell somebody what you're going through. It's okay to say, hey, I need a help of a psychologist, a psychiatrist, and whatever, just so that you can live, because you are robbing us of your blessing, the blessing that you would have been given to us if you allow yourself to have a suicide. So absolutely. I'm just glad that things are changing in that regard. And I would like to see more of that, where these people are given a platform. They're just treated just like any other person, because they're just human beings. They just have this. And like you said, it may have been caused from negative past experiences, traumatic past experiences that was never treated.
I think psychology should be taught throughout our school years because it's a part of us. We need to know about it. And we should be taught about the trauma that interferes with human development, so children can recognize it in their playmates that are traumatized. So
share with us 3 things that you would like someone, that those audience that are watching right now and the individuals that will be watching this video later on, share with us 3 things that you would like people to know about who we are psychologically, mentally, physically, holistic living.
Well, first of all, we are a child of God. So there are no small potatoes. Everybody has some area of utter brilliance, creativity, humor. We all have it all. It's just in different areas. And I know some kids are born with congenital defects, but most of us can be all sorts of things we can't even possibly imagine. So I just want to give people a bigger picture of what we're all capable of. And when we hold ourselves to a life of smallness, it's usually because we were taught that, and we ourselves are stuck in a young stage of development. So we need to focus on the parts of ourselves that are developmentally delayed, the parts of us that aren't moving, and find out what they need to take those first steps. It's usually some professional help. Like most men are not real comfortable with their emotions, so that emotional side of them is very young, and they need help, hopefully from their wives and others who can help them to embrace all their feelings, not just their angry feelings, but their sadness and their tenderness and their fearfulness and all the things that are inside every one of us, and to express it in a creative, constructive way that helps everyone else with their emotions as well. Helps us all to develop. And the same thing with women. So many women don't really do what they're here to do in the outside world. I think we're all meant to touch the world in some important way. They just stay at home with the kids and are happy piddling around the house when God has a bigger plan for them than that. That's wonderful, but there's something more. And to help them take the steps to what they're here to do, to touch the world.
All right, Dr. Gordon, Dr. Ann Redelfs, known as Gardener of the Human Soul. I appreciate you, and I just want to ask you, do you have anything that you will want to share with the audience, how they can contact you in case someone wants to work with you?
Well, the main thing I want to get across is the good news is that all of this is treatable when our human needs are met. So I would love to hear from you. My website is annthegrower.com, and there I have a free quiz to assess where you are in your development and what you can do to progress in that development. And I also have a lot of free videos as well as the books I've written that you can purchase. And there's just a whole lot of information to learn more about human growth.
Awesome, awesome. So I am going to, see if anybody has any question for Dr. Ann Redelfs, please go ahead and type it in the, type your information so I can ask the question, or if anyone has any question, please go ahead and type the question in the feed so I can ask that question. But anyway, I just want to thank you so much. Thank you, everybody that is joining us. I see Loana Parker, Shirley from Perkins, and then Lisa, I think she just ended, Lisa Riley, and Danielle Foreman is also joining us. I thank you all for joining us. We do this every Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I just want to take the time and thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And I want to remind everyone for my conference coming on here in Sacramento, California, October 20th. It's going to be an awesome experience. So I want you to join me. It's never too late to join and get your ticket now. As I said earlier at the beginning, if you purchase your ticket today, you can get to purchase that ticket. Just inbox me. I'll send you a link to purchase that ticket for $25. Otherwise, the ticket is $37. And even at $37, you get to have lunch. But where else can you get to have lunch and meet other women and collaborate? And you never know who your next business partner is going to be. That's all about the power of connection. So please join us next Saturday here in Sacramento, California. And I cannot wait to meet you there. Dr. Redelfs, I thank you so much. Until next time, everybody.
Thanks, Christy.
Until next time, everybody. Join us again next Monday. Bye, everybody. Okay, we are all by us. Where? I think I turned off red. Okay, I think I turned off already. Thank you for joining us. And it was an awesome. I'm going to bring you back again. I am going to bring you back again. You did an awesome job. And I think next time we talk, we're going to talk about the plant. You say plant. I think it will be a good demonstration to talk about the plant.
Great.
Yeah.
There's so much here because our society labels people with mental illness when all they are is traumatized.
Yeah, traumatized.
And it's just so devastating to see them spend their lives doped up on medication when they could be living normal lives if they were just guided into their trauma and out the other side.
And, you know, that's so, I'm glad you brought up that, because that's why I keep honing in on that mental illness, because I know that a lot of people, you know, they think about it, it's only few people that are not mentally ill, to be honest, really, because you may have gone through it one time, you may have been treated, or you still going through it, or you're gonna go through it before you die, right? Because of life experiences, because of the nature of the society and the world that we live in right now, right? It's so chaotic, and sometimes people are lost. People are really lost in the midst of everything. Because
I think the statistics are like 20% of people that have depression, and those are people that admit to it. How many people aren't even going close to anyone who can document?
I know, because depression is real. Like, I remember when I lost my dad, I didn't even know I was going through depression. It was afterwards that I realized, oh my God, I must be going through, because I'm on my father for 18 months. 18 months, right? And my father and I were so close. We were so close, like so close, even though my dad was far and far and far away, thousands and thousands away. If anything happens to my dad, even if he has headache, right? I will know right here. I will pick up the phone and say, are you okay, Dad? What's wrong? Or I'm saying, I had a dream that you were sick. Or even until my father died, the day he died, right before 2 days or a day before he died, I saw his corpse being carried into the house. I woke up crying and saying, Dad, immediately I picked up the phone. My father knew he was going to pass away, but he said I shouldn't be told. And I remember it clearly like it was yesterday, because that was the first experience or the second experience, but this one shook me to the core. And I remember a relative was carrying his coffin, coming inside the house, and even proceeding there. Several of his friends I was seeing in the dream, they were passing away, and I would see him and he was trying to revive them, but nothing really let me know that. I mean, in my mind, and I go back, I said it was all the work of God, because God knew that I probably would have lost it if I knew that he was going to die, that I would have been inconsolable if I knew that he was going to. So it was a way of the Spirit telling me what, and this is just my gift. I get it. I don't care who, I don't even have to be too close, but if I have some kind of contact with you where you and I talk or whatever, and you were to pass away, that's a gift that never fails. And I just, sometimes I don't like it because I get scared. I will see you being clothed in white, because that's how normally white and people that are being buried are clothed in white, right? I will see them with white cloth. But mine was so traumatic. I just spoke to my dad. 4 hours I spoke to him. The next phone call I received was that he died, right? And so it was, I went back to that dream. Let me tell you what happened in my own was, I got in a car. People came to tell me, I don't know what I was doing. I don't know what I was thinking. It's like, now when I think back, it's like I didn't really want to hear it. It didn't make sense. I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want it to be true. I remember getting in my car So my friend has came to tell me what happened. I didn't open it. I didn't even want to talk to her, right? And I remember getting in my car. People were just calling me to tell me. I didn't want to hear. I get in my car. I was driving hours and hours. I had no idea where I was going. I didn't even know where I was going. I just kept driving. I think I had lost it at that particular point, or I didn't want it to be true. When I finally recollected, calmed myself down, the anger sets in. The anger sets in. Now, I'm angry at my dad. How could you do this? I wish I was dead. I mean, I just couldn't even, honestly speaking, couldn't even believe my behavior at that time. All I knew, I just wish I was dead. I was cursing him. I was telling him, how could you be so mean and do such a... It took me 18 months. While the burial, I was strong enough for the burial, but then after everybody's gone, I mean, I cried almost every day for 18 months. But when I look back, I didn't realize that I was really depressed. Yeah. I didn't know what a depression was. When I started reading and I hearing people now talking about, I wasn't diagnosed. Mine was just for that period of time. It was just that loss. But I couldn't imagine other things that could bring people to go into a depression that will really impact and affect what they do in life, you see. And so the depression, I got through it because now when I talk about my dad, I laugh. It's a lot of joy talking about him, talking about the things we used to do together, talking about, just the joy, talking about the last time I saw my dad, what we talked, the picture, like I talk about my dad is really, oh my God, I can't shut up just talking about my father, right? But that 18 months, and somewhere I think I'm okay because I said, had I not gone through that mourning my dad for as long as it took me, I probably would be stuffing it inside. I took whatever it takes for me to go through it. I even find myself, I remember in Toastmasters, I gave a eulogy about my dad. And I think it was after that eulogy, I think it was the 18 months, after that eulogy, things changed, because I said everything I wanted to say. I said everything I wanted to say. And for me, I don't think I would take it back. Because it allowed me to grieve, and it allowed me to bring memories. It allowed me to go to childhood, and it just allowed me to, as long as I could remember as a child, I went there from there till his death. You understand? It was difficult. Sometimes it was happy. Sometimes it was sad. But when it was all said and done, I don't think I would take anything back. But anyway, I don't want to bore you with my story, but
no, it's very moving.
We're talking about depression. Depression, and then how did I cure it? I didn't take any medication. I didn't know I was depressed. But what got me out of it, my God, it was terrible, because I can remember myself sometimes, all of a sudden, I will say it, all of a sudden, I bust out crying. I'll bust out crying. Like, I get so emotional. I get like, some people will call me, it's like, what? You still going through this? But my friends understand, they never really say, but I'm sure that's probably going through their mind. Are you still going through this? But at the end of it all, I think one of the things that got me out of it, all the thing that got me out of it was being surrounded. I was surrounding myself with people. I started going out, whether I liked it or not, but sometimes I would go out, I would even cry, right? I'll watch a lot of TV just to distract me, right? As long as I didn't watch anything for Thanksgiving, because my dad died during Thanksgiving, so family, it was so hard for me. But now I'm okay with it. I'm okay. So we'll talk about depression is huge.
And well done the way you did that. So many people try to get it over with, like, I was once with a family, the little boy died. He was like 10 years old, and suddenly. And I talked to the father a week later, and I said, how's the mom doing? And he said, oh, pretty good. She's really, not crying much anymore. And it would have been a week.
No,
Your son dies and you're not crying after a week. I'm thinking that's pathological.
no. We learn to master. But I said that if I had to do it again, I wouldn't even change anything. I really wouldn't. Because
Beautiful.
I got out everything I wanted to get out, right? But it also allowed me to really enjoy him, even though I was crying. I was remembering so much, down to the teeth about my father, right? And so for me, it took me a long time, but it was worth every bit of it. I don't think I would change everything. I really don't think I would change anything about it. And I'm glad I didn't know what it was, whether I was depressed, because people would have convinced me to go to the hospital and get pills, which you know what I'm saying? Which if I had taken any pill, I kid you not, I probably would still be either taking Prozac or whatever they call. I've never taken any, and I don't plan to, because I believe, and I go back to human connection. When you are so down and going into that zone, and we all should know when we're going into that zone, we got to be really be honest to ourselves. When you find yourself going into that zone of darkness, the best thing that you can do for yourself is find somebody else to connect with. I so much believe in connection. And I know we don't have time these days to connect, but I think about the old days when people didn't have cars, when people didn't have anything, right? When people would travel 6, 7, 10 miles a day, 20 miles a day to go somewhere and then come back. All they had was each other. These women would travel in groups, and they were traveling 10 miles, 20 miles, and they were talking, chit-chat, and having fun. To them, it wasn't suffering, right? Mm-hmm. But what people didn't realize is that talking is more than medicine can give. That talking to one another and hearing, I don't care whether it's hearing about their problems, I don't care whether it's hearing about their sadness, their children, their husband and their maltreatment and their divorce. That talking, it lifts up something in our hearts and takes it away. It's something that even medication cannot give anyone. I so believe in connection. There is nothing, like I said, this technology can never replace human connection. And I believe that's one of the problems we're suffering now. We have more cars, more houses, more millionaires and billionaires, but we have more suicide in the world. It's not just United States, more suicide in the world. So something is just not working, and it has nothing to do with money. Something is just not working, and it's so sad that we're looking at it from a different perspective. I'm not a medical doctor, but I don't have to be a medical doctor, because it's all about the human heart. Our living, our existence, the essence of our being is really the human heart. It goes down to heart connection. No one can take it away. And the moment we begin to take it away, that we have done in recent years, we begin to get into more problems that even medical, and the medical never really solves any problem to start with. I don't want to say it on the air because I want to get sued. That's my belief, right? It has its place. Surgery, whatever, it really has its place. But not for every single illness we have, that somebody has to give you a pill and say, take this pill for this and you should be okay. Take this pill for this and you don't have to have endometriosis. Take this pill for this and you don't have to have your hormones as the natural thing that God said. You are young, you get old, you get puberty, you have your period. At the end of it, you don't have your period, but something is long. It's natural. I believe it's natural. People don't have to receive medication to make it go away, right? We get
Amen.
medication when we have period. People get medication for their period. It is natural, right? There's some tea that you can drink some tea and relieve the pain. My ancestors did not have medication when they had period, and they didn't have medication when they're going through menopause. But they survived. They lived to be 100, and some of them over 100. They did not have surgery and cut their wound out, their womb. They cut up your womb. They just come on.
The statistics are unbelievable. How many people have hysterectomies in this country? It's horrible.
Doctors don't like me because I go to my doctors and I was like, okay, but the doctors know the truth. I tell you this because my doctor for over 15 years was an Indian doctor. And I used to go to his hospital and he would hand me over medication. And I said, no, I'm not taking it. I came to get my checkup. And hold on just a minute. I did not stop the recording. Duh.